Overall, this is a great night for the Labour Party. It's gained an awful lot of seats. It has a huge majority now in Parliament. It's been a very bad night for the Conservatives, reduced to under 120 seats, which is its worst defeat in living memory, and indeed its worst defeat, you could argue, since 1906. Just because Labour have won a big landslide doesn't mean all the problems that the Conservative government has faced has gone away. Migration is the obvious one. Labour is going to need to find a solution to the small boats coming across the channel. It's going to ditch the Rwanda scheme, but it's going to have to come up with other solutions to deal with that particular problem. Intelligence-led policing will be one of them, trying to smash the gangs is another, and faster processing of those asylum seekers already in the country. Well, the challenges for the Labour government are putting public services right. The National Health Service is in crisis in this country. It's going to take quite a lot of money in order to restore its fortunes. The question is where Labour is going to get that money from and how quickly it can manage to do it. It's got a big growth plan. It intends to liberalise planning in this country to make it easier to build houses, factories, infrastructure. That will hopefully raise the tax revenue that the government can actually put into public services. Whether they can do that in time to satisfy public expectations, I think, is the big question. I think in terms of foreign policy, we won't see very much difference. Keir Starmer's Labour government will continue to back Ukraine against Russia very strongly. It will try and maintain the special relationship with the United States of America, although that will get a little bit more difficult if President Trump is re-elected. And when it comes to the European Union, I would expect to see Britain actually try to get a little bit closer to the European Union. In economic terms in particular. So we will see a renegotiation of the Trading Cooperation Agreement next year, and Labour will try and reduce the trade friction that has damaged growth in this country. I think the psychodrama will continue for the Conservatives. They have a big decision to make as to whether they try and come back to the centre of British politics, which is generally where elections are won, or whether they will chase after reform and move to a yet more right-wing position, which will probably strand them too far to the radical right of where the electorate is and make it more difficult for them to make a comeback. It will all depend on who they choose as leader. Reform have obviously done very well in terms of vote share. They haven't got many MPs, however, so that will limit their ability, I think, to influence the government and to impact on public opinion. Nevertheless, you could say that in the context of European politics, to see a populist radical right party come into Parliament is all of a piece with the movement we're seeing all over the continent. Well, I think it's always true that governments lose elections rather than oppositions winning them. But having said that, I don't think, even with a fairly low vote share, most of the public are going to notice that. They're just going to notice the fact that Labour are now back in government with a very solid majority in Parliament, one that they can probably defend for a couple of terms.